Hello, Delaware Food Pharmacy families. Thank you for joining us for another Dash Diet video. My name is Shannon, and I'm a registered dietitian and chef. Today, we are on site at the Christiana Demo Kitchen right here in Delaware. And I have a very special guest with me, Michelle Torres.
Hi, everyone.
Michelle has been with the Delaware Food Pharmacy programming for the past 2 years. And today, she's going to help us out with one of our favorites, my favorite, mac and cheese.
All right, these are our goals. This is what we're trying to do. So we're gonna start off with some pasta. I don't have this kind today, so we're gonna use rotini. Any pasta will work, so long as it's not long, skinny pasta. You want it to have like curves and shapes so that the cheese can stick to it. We're gonna pour this whole box into some boiling water, and we'll just let it go. Sometimes whole grain can take a little longer to cook, but we'll test it, and I'm sure it'll be about 8 to 10 minutes. Michelle is going to help us today by doing some chopping and offering some good tips, as always. These are just the ingredients for the side of broccoli, which with everything we do, we want it to taste good. So we have to add different things to substitute for salt so it has flavor. And she'll be chopping some onion, mincing some garlic, and the lemon's just there to show you what goes in afterwards. So Michelle, take it away.
All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to smash down. It makes it easier to take the skin off. And yes, it would be easier if my clothes were off, but for sanitation reasons, we're keeping them on. And some people love the garlic, so you can put as much as you want on it, but for this recipe, we're just going to use one. Is that okay right there for you?
Perfect.
So now we're going to do the onions. So what I do is I kind of cut them down this way, so it makes it easier for me to cut.
And with onions too, like this is going to get sauteed into the sauce, so it just has to be small so we don't get giant chunks of onion, but it doesn't have to be like a perfect dice. Michelle, did you eat mac and cheese a lot when you were growing up?
Yes, I did.
Well, what did your mom or your dad, or was it a family affair? What did they put in it?
It was my mom was basically she was a homemaker, so she was home the most. So we called it macarone con queso.
And so that sounds so much more fancy than my mac and cheese out of the deluxe box.
Yes. So, and my mom made it, we made it from scratch. My mom loved to cook, and so does my dad. So we made it from scratch.
We opened the box at my house, poured it in. Okay, Michelle, it's about to get cheesy. The kinds of cheese that we're going to use today are low-fat, sharp cheddar cheese, reduced fat Swiss, and just a little bit of regular Parmesan, okay? So we'll have to open these up, but first I wanted to ask you, do you know why that cheddar is the most dangerous cheese?
No, why?
Because it's sharp.
Okay.
Can't help myself. All right, let's open this up. And for 3 ounces, like there's 4 ounces and half a cup. So what we're gonna do is just shred this down to be about 1/4 of a cup. And I thought maybe you could do the shredding. That way you won't have to get to the gym because you'll already be shredded.
Okay. So I'm using this one, right?
Yeah, the bigger one. Okay, we're just gonna shred that down. All right, so it looks like this is a good amount of cheese. It looks perfect. We also need to basically cut the Swiss into, like dice it. And I think with this, like each slice is about 1 ounce. So when you see things in ounces for sliced cheese, it's gonna be ounce to slice, okay? And so we'll have you can do like a small to medium sort of like dice on it.
Okay.
Cheese. 1. Is that 1 or 2? That's 1. That's 2. Okay. All right. When you were growing up, did you guys like bake the mac and cheese, or did you have it more like in the like pan mac and cheese?
We baked it.
You baked it? Yeah. Perfect.
And we can put that
Right in there. Okay. All right, so we're gonna start making our cheese sauce, and some of the recipes have called for different kinds of cheeses. The best mac and cheese has a combination of cheeses. For ours, we did a little mixture of things that were lower in fat, lower in sodium. We also are using unsalted butter, and we're using low sodium chicken broth. This is what's really gonna take the place of the cream or the butter that you would add, because we're just gonna add a little bit. And also we're gonna make a roux with flour and butter. And to make it creamy, our favorite, low-fat Greek yogurt. Okay? All right, okay. So the first step for a sauce, as far as mac and cheese, is going to be a roux. And roux is very traditional French kind of cooking. But also in America, down south, they would use roux for gumbos. In this case, we're gonna try to use a very small amount because we don't need that much, all right? So it's gonna be a tablespoon of butter till about 2 tablespoons of flour. So we'll add this kind of right on in, and it's already starting to melt. We'll do 1, and we'll do 2, okay? And then we have to start to mix this. And it's going to start to come together and almost look like play-doh, silly putty. I mean, you don't really want to play with it because that'll be messy. But it's going to provide the thickening agent. Other things you could do if you want it would be to do like a cornstarch slurry, which we've done in the past, which is just cornstarch and water. But the roux really does provide the flavor that we want for this mac and cheese. Then once it's mixed in, we're going to add our chicken broth. Michelle, would you add in a half of a cup of the chicken broth? I'll do the half a cup right on in there. And you can see where it's definitely looking a little bit like, again, dough. All right, pour her on in there. That's okay. We're gonna mix that right together. Okay, and this is what it should be doing. It should kind of look like this. And then I'll ask Michelle if she can please add in the cheddar cheese.
Yes.
Okay, get on in there, cheddar. You know what they say, cheddar makes it better. You can already see how it's starting to like form up and really take the shape. And then we can add the Swiss. Okay, we're gonna just keep mixing this nicely. Mix, mix, mix. That's the goal. We want it to smell good and taste good. Okay, and I know this is a little bit odd, but this is the point where you're going to actually add in a little bit of those onions. So maybe not even all of them, just like a little handful for like a quarter of a cup. Perfect. This is just going to add a little bit of flavor and crunch so that the whole thing will have more kind of depth to the flavor palette. Now we can add in the tablespoon of Parmesan. So a tablespoon of the greatest grated cheese, Parmesan. All right, so it's looking like a cheese sauce, but it's not quite enough, not to coat all of the pasta that we need to coat. So I'm gonna ask now for, I guess I can put in about, it's a half of a cup of our low-fat Greek yogurt. So I could have given you a better tool. Could have given you my Tiana scraper.
Oh, this is beautiful.
Thank you, as Tiana is. All right.
But if you don't have a Tiana at home, you could use pretty much any type of spatula that you can to take it out.
Yes, it's true. And now it's starting to look a little thick, as we can tell. So we're going to add the other half of a cup of chicken stock. And you don't even have to rinse it because it's honestly just going in the same container. Like, it doesn't really matter. All right. Okay. All right. So we're going to keep mixing this. Now, I don't know if you can tell too well on camera, but one of the things about altering recipes is that they don't necessarily always look as they should. In other words, it doesn't quite look yellowy enough. So this is where we pull in a little trick where we're going to use some turmeric to give it a little bit of a yellow flavor. There's definitely white mac and cheeses. It's all good. Okay. But we definitely, I think that, yellow is a little bit more traditional. That's right. It's gonna start to come to life. All right, so it's just a little bit of turmeric, and let's make sure we're getting the color on right. And we will need to add other flavoring. Again, anytime that there's not salt, that we're taking out salt from food, we can substitute the flavor for other things. And the top things are always going to be like heat, citrus, spices, garlic, onions. Those things are going to take the place of the salt to give it a little bit more flavoring. Now, I do like a little bit of heat, but not too much, but I think you can tell where this looks a little bit more yellowy now, like a little bit more traditional, okay? There's nothing wrong with baking it. It's still gonna taste amazing, all right? So we're going to put in, I think I just did like a fourth of a teaspoon of the chili powder, okay? Little heat. And you can add more or less to this. You can have your hot sauce nearby, whatever you want to do. Another fourth a teaspoon of the smoked paprika. Again, regular paprika will work just fine. I am a huge smoky spiced fan. Our favorite low sodium adobo. Now for this one, we're actually going to do a teaspoon of it. So we're going to do that's a teaspoon. We're going to use this one twice. I don't have a teaspoon measure. Right? So we're going to do the half a teaspoon twice. Okay? 1 and 2. Perfect. Michelle, I feel like you've used adobo before.
I use it all the time for everything. Pretty much. It is so good, and it has so many spices that you would normally take too much time putting through, and this has it all in one.
Gonna make sure this is mixed thoroughly, and then I'm just gonna put some cracked black pepper right on in there.
Oh, that looks delicious.
Okay.
And it smells so good.
Thank you. I wasn't confident this was gonna work. The first time I made this, I'm not lying, I didn't do it right. It didn't work, but the roux is the key to make the sauce look like a cheese sauce, which is exactly what we're going for. Cheese sauce is looking good. It's definitely tasting good. We all tasted it here. And we're not going to use the whole box of pasta. We're not going to use all the pasta. It's probably about 4 or 5 cups because we want it to be cheesy. If we use the whole box, it won't be cheesy enough, and we're pretty cheesy. Also, then you have extra pasta to do whatever you want with. You can put it on top of salads. You can just have it with some sauce. There's a lot of different options. For this one, we're just going to have Michelle pour in our whole wheat pasta. Okay, and this sauce is already warmed. We're gonna make sure it gets coated. Michelle, I'm gonna give it a toss there. Michelle's a bit of a perfectionist, and I like that about her. So she's gonna make sure that every noodle has cheese on it.
Yes.
Which is crucial.
Yes. Because I want it all to be coated.
And the greatest.
Sauce. Yes. And as you can see, now that all the noodles are coated with the sauce, I'm happier now.
I'm trying. Try it. It's lovely. It's like looking in the mirror. Beautiful.
Oh my God. This is delicious.
You can do just this, all right? You can absolutely serve this. It's called like pan mac and cheese, or you can bake it. I'm gonna set some aside of this kind, and then we'll add some liquid to it and we'll put it in our pan to bake it.
Yes,
Do you want to go ahead and chop up the broccoli too?
Sure.
Okay, I'll get you a bowl to put that in. Actually, you can probably put it right back in this container. Just
Okay.
move it to the side when you're done.
Now, some people don't like the long stem and they cut them off. You could do that. It makes it cook faster. But pretty much we try not to waste any food. We pretty much like to cook the stem as well. And for searing, it's easier if you cut it smaller because it cooks faster. But again, you can cut it down to your liking.
Our pan's been heating, and we're going to do the sizzle test to make sure that it's hot enough, and it is. For our broccoli, we're going to add in some olive oil. which Michelle's gonna pour in about a tablespoon, enough to coat the bottom, okay? You can go more than that. There you go, perfect. All right, and then we're gonna add in our broccoli. You can pour in the broccoli. Again, I don't add in my garlic until the end because if I put it in first, I burn it. If you are someone that is better than that, please, by all means, do whatever feels best. For me, it's always going to be a secondary thing. You can add either water or like low sodium chicken broth or even vegetable broth if you're a vegetarian. It'll just help it cook a little bit faster because the steam will help everything move through. All right, and then I'm going to have Michelle add in the garlic. And we're going to again mix this about, let it cook. All right, we'll have Michelle squeeze in the half of a lemon. And we like to use the juicer for this because it keeps the seeds out. Remember, lemons have seeds, limes do not. But you certainly don't need a juicer. You can use your hands. Just make sure you don't have any cuts, because you'll find out. Michelle, thank you for spraying the baking dish with Pam or olive oil. We just don't want it to stick in there. And you're gonna make the crumb topping because all baked mac and cheeses have some breadcrumbs on top. Just gonna add about 1/4 of a cup of Panko. And you can use any breadcrumbs. Again, you just wanna make sure that they're not seasoned because that will add extra sodium. We're gonna add about 1/4 of a teaspoon of the paprika. Okay. And again, I'm a smoked paprika fan, but you don't have to be. Okay. And then the last thing will be, it'll be 1.5 teaspoons, which I know is an odd number, but it'll be like 1.5 teaspoons of the Parmesan. Okay. And again, with any of this, you can add more, you can add less. We just want to make sure we have enough to kind of give it a coating. And while that's going on, because this is going in the oven, I'm going to be adding another 1/4 of a cup of the yogurt into the mac and cheese mixture, okay? Because we don't want it to be dry. I have the kitty one this time. What's wrong with me? Oh, here it is. I got it. And then we'll add a little bit more of the broth to it. And again, this is just to make sure that it doesn't get dry. So with this too, I'm gonna say probably another 1/4 of a cup. We'll use this measure this time. And we're gonna mix it up. It probably will look a little soupy, but we would rather it be soupy than dry. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Michelle. So now that Michelle has mixed this to perfection, we're gonna pour it in here. Wash your hands. I don't want you to get burned. There you go. And then she will sprinkle a little bit of the crust topping on top. I'm going to turn off my oven here. Give the side pan a little clean now. Easier to clean it now than it will be when it's done. And we have preheated the oven to about 400. And we're going to bake it for about 20 minutes. It doesn't take that long. You're just looking for like a topping coat. The rest of it's already cooked, and if you cook it longer, it will get more dry. So our mac and cheese has a crispy crust, just like Michelle likes it. Does that look okay to you?
Yes, it's delicious.
All right, it's a little bit browned. Again, we don't want to leave it in too long because we don't want to dehydrate our noodles, our mac, okay? So I have 2 different versions. I'm just going to do 2 different plate ups. I do prefer this kind, which is just the pan, and it's going to hold its shape like macaroni and cheese should. And then we can just add some broccoli, okay? So that we're meeting pretty much all of our food groups. Good to go. All right. All right, so there's one version of it, and then we're going to do the baked kind next. Okay? Michelle, do you want to portion out this one?
So delicious.
Okay, I got a little black pepper on this one. Don't touch it because it's hot. Right? So now that has all the bells and whistles. We have the cheesy sauce and the crunchy top. You can still see the steam coming out of it. Yes.
And it's still nice and creamy.
Okay. And that's because we added that extra stuff. And I'm going to come right behind it. I think that's good. And put some broccoli with it. Okay. And then again, we have a nice balanced meal that will sustain you, make you feel like you ate something.
Thanks everyone for joining us today. I hope it was helpful. In our next video, we will be creating another Dash Diet recipe. Remember, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to your care team at Christiana Care.